G'day guys and welcome to ReDriven. Now, Coldplay. Here's a band that have sold millions of albums, can sell out arena tours all around the world, yet most of my friends cannot stand them. And it's weird because fundamentally Coldplay are just a bunch of talented musicians that have taken rock and roll, tweaked it and moved the genre forward while still paying tribute to classic rock acts of the past. Which brings us to this, the Toyota FJ Cruiser, a 4x4 that polarizes public opinion. These things were pretty popular when they were new and they're selling like crazy now, which is weird because almost everybody I know thinks they're a bit weird and odd. And like Coldplay, these are a fundamentally capable and talented thing. They've managed to push the aesthetic of 4x4 design forward while still paying tribute to 4x4s of the past. But are they actually any good? Are they worthy of their cult-like status? What goes wrong with them? Can you live with them every day? And most importantly, should you buy one? Let's find out. Now, before we get deep into the FJ Cruiser, please do us a favor and press those like, subscribe, and bell buttons. And hey, why not follow us on all of the socials as well? Now, we will be focusing on the Australian variant of the FJ Cruiser, but if you're not from Australia, don't fret because all of the information that we're going to be going over will relate to your local models. And look, we're not going to be covering every single graphic detail of the FJ Cruiser because that would just take way too long, but we have compiled all that information and put it into our handy ReDriven cheat sheets.
Our cheat sheets are invaluable as they provide a full breakdown of the car's model range, its common problems, what you need to look out for before you hand over your hard-earned cash, how much of that cash you should be handing over, and so much more. Check it out in the link below. The FJ Cruiser is actually based on the underpinnings of the Toyota Prado, but it is shorter and wider, and it arrived here in Australia in 2011. Toyota updated the FJ Cruiser in 2013, fitting a larger fuel sub-tank for greater driving range, along with the Crawl off-road cruise control system, which is designed to assist drivers in navigating tricky terrain. It's basically a control system that operates in low range and replaced the downhill assist control. The FJ was available in Australia in just the one variant, and production wrapped up in 2017.
This particular FJ is absolutely loaded with aftermarket accessories, including a yoga studio on the roof. And if you are in the market for one of these, just make sure that all of the accessories are of the highest quality, and equally as important, make sure those accessories have been fitted correctly. Actually, if you are in the market for any 4x4, make sure you click up here and watch our ultimate 4x4 buyer's guide. Look, personally, I bloody love the look of these things. And if you don't, look, that's okay. I'm not saying we can't be friends anymore, but your incorrect opinion may put a bit of a strain on things. Speaking of putting a strain on things, there is something really important you need to check out if you're in the market for these. Because the doors open in this funky manner, this aperture is huge, and the problem is, if it's doing some serious off-roading, the body can flex and bend, and there have been some reports of the body shell cracking down here. Just make sure that you look for any cracked paint or welds, and just make sure if it has been repaired that it has been repaired properly. Also, because the tailgate opens to the side and it has this spare wheel bolted to it, there is a stack of weight and stress on these hinge joints. So just make sure that it closes and opens really easily and it isn't sagging. If it is sagging and if it kind of clunks when you open and close it, means that the hinge's best days are probably behind them. Besides that, make sure you get underneath and check for any signs of abuse. Look, a few scratches and dents are to be expected. These things are built to go off-road, but if it has been properly abused, yeah, just be very careful. How's the interior? Well, it's just a sea of like design and weirdness and stuff and things. Okay, first up, the windscreen. It's really far away, which is pretty cool, but it's pretty much vertical, and these are renowned for getting cracked windscreens because vertical glass, stones traveling at more than 60k an hour generally result in cracked windscreens. Also, it's got 3 windscreen wipers, which is pretty cool. Elsewhere, look, in my opinion, I think this is aging really gracefully. It's a really funky design. Yes, all the plastics are pretty harsh, but this is like a utilitarian off-roading monster, and the hard plastics are good because it's easy to wipe clean. I think it looks great. I think it's awesome. Some people don't like the interior of this, and they're wrong. Also, it has one of the most phallic gear knobs I've ever seen. It really does put the knob in gear knob. I'm not sure if I should like hold it like that or stroke it. That's enough. Also, all the switch gear just feels typical Toyota tough. Like, this stuff is not going to break anytime soon. And once you're in the back, look, if you're a fan of caving or you despise wide open places or even freedom, you'll love this, but otherwise it's very claustrophobic back here. There's not a whole lot of knee room, decent amount of headroom. My feet are kind of jammed in under the seat, but my knees are up against the back of the seat, and this thing's in my driving position. The windows are tiny, the pillars are massive right next to my head. It does feel very dark and cozy. I don't know how much kids would like being back here. How's the tech? Well, you're going to get typical Toyota infotainment systems in here, which means it's utter shithouse. These things are terrible. Bluetooth takes forever to connect, then sometimes it disconnects. Sometimes it'll be connected, you'll take a phone call, and then when you hang up from the phone call, it can't connect, or it'll just intermittently connect. It's just rubbish. The screen's hard to push. You've pretty much got to punch it, which I may have done 1 or 2 times. The first thing you should do if you buy one of these is replace this infotainment system. Get something with like Apple CarPlay or Android Auto and the ability to connect a reversing camera, because this is just shit. Now, besides that, this particular FJ Cruiser is loaded with aftermarket accessories like an air compressor, driving lights, a secondary battery, and a whole stack of power outlets. Most FJ Cruisers are going to feature some aftermarket accessories, and it's going to vary depending on each car. But even standard, yeah, the tech, not great. The only real positive of the infotainment system is the amount of speakers they're spread throughout, and they sound pretty good. Actually, one thing that is pretty cool as far as the tech goes is that you get a compass, a thermometer, and an inclinometer. Inclinometer. Anyway, what it's there for is that if you're upside down and you're not aware of that, it will tell you. Yes, it's very practical. This particular FJ has this aftermarket drawer system, but without this, the amount of room back here is fantastic. Plus, the boot is lined, like the rest of the interior, in like a plastic vinyl, so it's super easy to wash out. Okay, practicality in the back. It does have some door pockets on the back of the seats, but they're not that great. There is storage down the ankle, but once the doors are closed, it's nearly impossible to get your hand down there to get anything in or out. There are some pockets up here, but again, they're just oddly shaped. I'm not sure what you're going to get in there. One weird thing is that you can't open the back door unless the front door is open, so you're kind of trapped in this dark and lonely spot until someone lets you out from the front. Okay, and up front, there's a fair bit of practicality. First of all, I don't know if this is practical, but you've got 2 sun visors, which is pretty handy if you want to get changed in the car and you don't want anyone to see your face, but just your mid bits. Awesome. There's storage up here above the driver's dash. On the passenger side, it's an airbag. There are some cubby holes and storage in this midsection, but there's nowhere to put your phone specifically, so it falls around. It will fit in the cup holders, but yeah, there's no phone specific spot. One quick fun tip: the cup holder bit comes out so you can throw it in the dishwasher and clean it. The door bins in the front doors are both not big enough for a large drink bottle holder and not small enough to securely hold a takeaway coffee cup, which is just a bit annoying. So it's kind of practical. So what goes wrong with these mechanically? Are they reliable? Can they handle being smashed through the bush after many, many years? Well, look, I'm not a mechanic, so I can't answer those questions, but Jim is.
Toyota FJ Cruiser, what a great car. The V6 petrol, the 1GRFE, is a really good, solid, reliable unit. A bit thirsty compared to its Prado diesel cousins, and they do have a few problems with blowing head gaskets, but frequent coolant flush when specified will definitely help with that. The transmissions and the diffs are super strong, typical Toyota reliability. The suspension is definitely up to the task. A lot of them on the market have had suspension upgrades. Just check that they've been done well and make sure there's not any weird tyre scrubbing issues. And besides that, make sure it's got a good service history and keep those services going with your local independent mechanic, like me.
Is it safe? Sort of. It has 6 airbags, including 2 side curtain airbags to protect those in the back seat, but it has some enormous blind spots with those huge C and B pillars.
Safety tech and driver aids wise, it has anti-lock brakes, brake force distribution, brake assist, stability control, and traction control.
But because it was a pretty low volume model, it doesn't actually have an ANCAP safety rating. Now, as I mentioned before, this particular FJ Cruiser is far from standard, especially when it comes to wheels, tyres and suspension, and that does need to be taken into account when it comes to these driving impressions. But first things first, there's just such a sense of theatre to driving this thing. It's awesome. Like normally this level of like fun and theatre is generally exclusive to expensive and unique cars, but immediately this thing is just, it's just fun and involving to drive. It's great. Vision from the front is interesting. It feels like you're watching a big screen TV while driving because this windscreen's so flat and so huge and rectangular. But actually judging dimensions is not too bad. Like vision could be better, but with the A-pillars being so close, yeah, you've got a pretty good judgment of where the dimensions of the car are. As far as the back goes, those blind spots are massive. I've had a few times already reversing out of a park or even changing lanes, and I'm not really sure what's there, even when you are using the mirrors. Add to that the lack of reversing camera, and it does make this a bit of a nightmare around town, especially if you're reverse parking or reversing in anywhere. It does take a bit of talent and courage. Many modern SUVs and 4x4s have this ability to almost hide their weight and size, and the same can't be said for the FJ. This thing, it does feel big and cumbersome, but it's kind of part of the charm, isn't it? As I mentioned, this is fitted with some pretty trick aftermarket suspension, and it does a fantastic job. It doesn't wallow and pitch around like the standard FJs do, and it just absorbs any bumps or problems with the road with absolute ease. However, these aftermarket tyres, they're all-terrains and they're pretty noisy. On the freeway, they just get that drony woo sound, and yeah, after a couple of hours, it gets pretty tiring. Performance-wise, look, it does take a bit of space to get up to speed, and if you're buying one of these because you think it's a performance four-wheel drive, you're an idiot. It's not embarrassingly slow, it's respectable, but it again feels a bit cumbersome. Now, these FJ Cruisers are renowned for their phenomenal, brilliant, amazing off-road ability, and I would love nothing more to show you just how hardcore off-road these things will go, but the problem is this is not my car, and it has been lent to us by the wonderful people at Newcastle Toyota, and I'm not allowed to take it off-road unless I buy it, which I'm very tempted to, but I should probably wait to the end of this video to see if I recommend buying it to myself. That works? Yeah. Toyotas generally hold their value really well, but the FJ Cruiser with its almost cult-like status has taken that to a completely different level. To put it into perspective, these things brand new were around about $48,000. This is a 2012 FJ Cruiser with 168,000 Ks on it, and it's $47,000 to buy. It's only lost $1,000. But find a completely stock low kilometre FJ Cruiser and you'll be looking at more than 55 grand to get behind the wheel on a full-time basis. Being a naturally aspirated and petrol V6 and having to lug 2 tons of weight around, look, these things are not fuel efficient, especially when compared to modern SUVs and 4x4s. But the flip side, as Jim mentioned, these are a Toyota based on a Prado, so they're unbelievably reliable. And if you do need parts, they're going to be readily available and shouldn't cost too much money. So should you buy one? Well, look, let's put it this way. I'm genuinely, seriously considering buying this actual FJ Cruiser. So yes, you should definitely buy one. Look, it's tough, it's cool, it's incredibly capable, it will handle any terrain you throw at it, it's reliable, and the pricing, it just seems to be appreciating all the time. So it's actually really hard to justify why you wouldn't buy one. Actually, look, can you do me a favor? Can you physically make anyone you've ever met go and subscribe to this channel, and that way I can become a wealthy YouTuber and justify buying one even more. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and what do you think? What do you think of the FJ Cruiser? Would you buy one? Let us know in the comments section below. And while you're at it, make sure you press like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, go and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We'll see you next time.